And welcome, everyone. I'm Bill Newell here from MSO News Sports, joined by Phil Stacey, Matt Williams, Nick Giannino from the Salem News, Nick Kukuru, sports editor of the Gloucester Times. Rick Moore is here as well. So, gentlemen, let's begin by talking about maybe a highlight or two from this past week in local sports. I don't know where to begin, but let's begin with soccer, field hockey. Or we haven't seen Nick G for a while. So, Nick, why don't you fill us in on what's happening, what you've been around this week?
Yeah, well, I got the boys soccer beat this year, which has been fun. But I want to touch on golf real quick. The season's wrapping up here for the high schoolers. As we were talking about earlier before we went live here, daylight savings is happening next weekend. So they're struggling to get matches in at this point as is with the darkness coming in, especially teams traveling and, they can't tee off till a later time, that sort of thing. So most schools will be done with the golf season next week. I was over at Salem last night, caught Swampscott's last match, which was great. They finished the year with 9 straight wins after starting 0-2, so that was pretty cool for them. Some good players. St. John's Prep is still undefeated again. They've beaten pretty much everyone in their conference already. And they're a team that's relying on some younger guys too, some sophomores, a couple juniors, and they're just very balanced, very deep. A lot of under par scores, a lot of breaking 40 for those guys. So another remarkable season for the Prep. Who else sticks out here in the NEC or the Cal?
Fenwick's having a good year.
Grinding away. What's that?
I think Fenwick's having a good year.
Yeah, that's right. Totally forgot about Fenwick. Can't leave them out there. Rolling right along, too. Jim McHugh has that group playing some good golf. I don't know if they expected to have this great of a season going in, but, they've been carried by Cade Buckley at the top, and when he has a tough round, they've been getting picked up. Some of the hoop guys, I know Jason Romans has had some good matches this year. So they're a deep team as well, and they only have 2 losses, just as Swampscott did when they finished up. So good season for Fenwick as well. And they beat St. Mary's twice this year. I don't think they had beaten St. Mary's in I don't know how long. It's been a while. So to get that win and do it twice was pretty great for that program.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll leave it at that with the golf. But, yeah, going to be wrapping up next week. It's just a crazy fast season. I think I got out to maybe a handful of matches, and you blink and it was over. So, but good for them to get out there and have some sort of season this year.
Let me throw you still on the spot, Nick. What about soccer? What are some of the highlights from soccer so far this fall?
Yeah, let's see. I mean, most teams haven't played a ton of games yet. On the boys' side, the NEC's been very competitive again. A lot of teams beating each other. Peabody was off to a great start before they ran into their new NEC foe now, Maskin Ahmed, who seems to be transitioning just fine to their new conference. I wrote about them earlier this week, and they're outscoring their opponents. They're 4-0, and they're outscoring their opponents 29-3. So a pretty dominant run for them to start things off in the NEC. St. John's Prep has yet to allow a goal on the season, which is pretty cool. They've played 4 games. Beverly, Nick, you were at the Beverly Gloucester game the other day, and it looked like 2 of their best players went down, Nick Brayanka and was Teo Burbich, one of their better scorers. So I don't know what you can tell us about that, how serious those injuries are, but Beverly was supposed to be pretty good this year. Once again, they won the NEC last year.
Yeah, that Braganca injury looked pretty serious. He was on crutches after the game. It was a knee injury. I believe Burbick was a groin pull. So, but I mean, in these short seasons, that could be, that could be it for him. That was a pretty good game up until the guys got hurt. It was 1-0 Gloucester, and then it ended up 4-0. They couldn't really, keep up with the speed with all their backups in the midfield.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big tough loss if they lose both those guys, because they're probably arguably their 2 best players.
Nick Kukuru, why don't we keep the ball up there in the Gloucester Cape Ann area? What's the news there? COVID news, really, right? From the city of Gloucester.
Yeah, I know Gloucester's kind of tipped into the red this week, but as far as I know, as last I've been told, games are still going. I know tonight both soccer teams are playing Danvers, and those games have not been postponed. So they're starting in about an hour, so they should be going off. And the soccer is still getting the ball rolling. This will be their fourth game of the season coming up this afternoon. So I think the girls are 1-2, the boys are 2-1. So they're still kind of getting their feet wet a bit in the early stages. And then field hockey's right at the midpoint. They're 2-1. Losses to Danvers and Masco, so they probably lost to the two best teams in the conference there, and that's it. And they're finally getting their best player back to Mia Sala, the program's all-time leading scorer in her junior year, and she's played one game this season. She's been under quarantine. She doesn't have COVID, but somebody in her class at school did, so she's missed the last 5 games with that. So they're looking forward to getting her back for the second half.
Is she related to like Tom Sala and?
Yeah, I believe they're cousins. Yeah, hockey player too. So naturally,
related in Gloucester, huh? Really?
Yeah.
Huh?
I know.
Nick, you mentioned those guys just getting off, or those girls too, just starting the season off, and with golf finishing. But yeah, we have some soccer programs as well here that are just starting. Danvers has only played 2 games. Like I said, Beverly's only played about 4, so still got some games to look forward to here as the weather keeps getting colder.
Yeah, the staggered start's been kind of weird. I went to Gloucester boys soccer's home opener on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday I went to senior night at Manchester Essex. So they were finished.
It's all over the place.
Yeah, the senior nights have been really early this year. I think Danvers's girls, their senior night was also their opener, so they took care of everything in one fall swoop.
Essex Tech did the same thing with the boys. I think it's because they just don't know if they're gonna, at any point, the season's gonna be shut down and they won't have the chance to do senior night. So they're trying to get them out of the way.
I think the game that you're doing today is Beverly boys soccer senior day, and that will be all of Beverly's will be done at that point. Every team will have done it this fall. So I think that's exactly why they're doing it on the early end, just to see if. Safe than sorry kind of thing in case anything would have happened where teams had to stop playing later on.
Phil, how about yourself? You've been out and around this past week?
Yeah. I've been out watching a couple field hockey teams. In fact, I think now I've seen, what do we have, 9 field hockey teams in that area playing, 10 if you count St. Mary's. And I've seen all but Swampscott so far, and I'll remedy that as soon as I can. So I've had a chance to see everybody. I saw Peabody and Beverly on Thursday, and they battled to a scoreless tie, but it was good action at both ends of the field. Some scoring chances both ways. Great play by the 2 goalies, Sydney Bragner of Peabody and Julia Otterbein of Beverly. Julia is way ahead of the rest of the pack locally in terms of saves. I think she's averaging about 17 saves per game in a sport where, sometimes 7 or 8 might be the norm. So she's faced a lot of shots this season and has been terrific for Beverly, despite the fact that they haven't won a game yet. It's kind of strange to say that about Beverly field hockey. But I also saw Masconomet and Danvers this past week under the lights. And, of course, that's the defending Northeastern Conference champions, Danvers. Masconomet had won the last 8 Cape Ann League titles when they came into the Northeastern Conference this year. And Masconomet was pretty dominant winning that game, 6-2. All kinds of stick skills, speed, agility. Maggie Sturgis is a fantastic player for them, but she's just one of many that they have over there. Kate Samangi, Callie McSweeney, Ava Tello, on and on and on. They get all kinds of talent on that Masconomet squad. And not that Danvers doesn't. Ashley Kukuru, Nick, I know you saw them, Danvers play Gloucester this week too. We were joking that she's somehow related to you. Again, keeping that relation thing going there, but distant cousins or whatnot. Ashley's a captain for Danvers who was formerly a defenseman, but she had good stick skills, and they figured why not move her up to the the front line this year, and she's scored in every one of Danvers' 3 games so far. So that's a good move for Coach Jill McGinnity and her squad in Danvers. Fenwick continues to play really well, led by Grace Morey. Grace has got about 21 points already this year. Fenwick, I think, is 3-2-1 now. Swampscott's playing very well. Marblehead is off to a strong start. So yeah, it's been interesting and fun. Personally, as somebody who doesn't have a deep background, let's say, of field hockey experience, watching the 7-on-7 game has actually been fun for me. It's a faster game. There's a lot more subs. So you're constantly getting fresh players into the game. The ball is moving. There's less whistles. And I'm finding that there are more breakaway opportunities because, a couple of smart passes can get the ball past a defense and gives teams a chance to break in alone on the goaltender. So that's exciting as well. And even when goaltenders face those situations, as I saw in the Beverly Peabody game, you can come up and make a save in that opportunity. Especially the aggressive goaltenders will come out, cut down the shooting angle, and make the save there.
Do you see a lot of similarities, or is that a force to say, comparing it to hockey? Obviously, you're a big hockey guy. You cover a lot of hockey. Now you're doing the field hockey. You see any similarities? Or they have the 4-on-4 overtimes in hockey. Like you mentioned the 7-on-7. That's got to be similar a little bit.
Yeah, I guess, not that it would be a stretch, but there are some similarities. I've had several coaches, Nino, say to me already this year that changing players on the fly is a lot like hockey. Instead of just one player going in for another, sometimes we're seeing 3, 4. I've seen 6 players go in at one time. Entire field players come off, 6 new players go on. That's the biggest thing. A little bit different to skating as opposed to running on turf and trying to dribble with naturally I think you have to. It's a little more hunched over than you would be in hockey, where you're leaning more on the stick to glide you along the ice. Here you have to bend over and dribble and reverse it, with your backhand and things like that. It's not as smooth in that regard, but especially with masking on it, some of those shots are extremely hard, like a slap shot in ice hockey. And I think a lot of the girls that play field hockey also play ice hockey during the winter too. So that's a natural transition from one sport to the other.
Yeah. Interesting.
Get your field hockey fix here.
Phil, you're doing well. It was a good job. Nice job, really.
Well,
yeah.
You want to know something? And I said this to my wife, and she's looking at me like, yeah, okay. But you can still teach an old dog new tricks. If you had told me that I'd be out at, whatever it's been, 9, 10 field hockey games, I would have said, I'm busy. I'm in the office. Can't always get out to a 4 p.m. game in the fall, that kind of thing. But it's worked out great, and I'm really enjoying it. And, it's been a lot of fun. The coaches and the players have been terrific, and it's exciting.
Hey, Matt, I want to call on you for a moment here. I know you wrote a story about Endicott football. They're not playing, obviously, because of the coronavirus and the league postponements and so on, their league. But what are college football teams doing right now, or what are the Gulls doing at this point?
Just practice. They started out slow. They weren't able to put their helmets on at first. It's actually just like the MIAA. They had to do so many days with no equipment and so many days with just a helmet, and then they were able to put the full pads on. So it's really like spring ball for them, working on individual drills, tackling, blocking, technique, things like that. We heard Bill Belichick say the last 2 weeks how important practice is, right? So that's what they're doing. They're holding out hope that they're going to be able to have a spring season. We've seen in Division I that the 1AA, the Colonial Athletic Association, with URI and Maine and UNH is going to play starting on March 6th. So I think, there's hope that Division III will do the same thing. And, I guess it remains to be seen. We're starting to see Division III cancel some of their winter stuff. So, I don't know how realistic the hope is. Seem to be acting very early on some of this stuff. But, the same thing, like Belichick always says, you got to control what you can control. So that's what these guys are doing. They're just controlling practice and, trying to do the best they can to, to make themselves better during this time. They don't want to sit around and, gain the wrong kind of weight and get lazy. They want to use the time to get better.
Let me ask you guys, I know with all the colleges as well, most of the college athletics also closed down. Have you heard from any local athletes that have moved on to college at all? I mean, you might not because they're shut down as well. But are you hearing anything at all from former high school athletes here on the North Shore now at college? Other than Rick's daughter, but
she's not playing.
No, I haven't heard anything as far as that goes. I mean, been really kind of focused on the high school stuff here at this point, but no, nothing yet.
I think everybody's just doing the best they can with it. Some people are playing. I mean, you got the Agresti twins at Boston College Soccer, and they're playing every game. I think they were at Duke this past week, and Syracuse. So there are some that are playing. It just depends what division you are. I know, for some of the for Endicott soccer, they're just practicing and hoping they can get a few scrimmages in. I know Endicott's been doing some inter-squad scrimmages and broadcasting them on Twitter and on their website just to give parents a chance to see the kids play. I mean, it's not a real game. There's no player of the week or anything, but I mean, it's better than nothing. So I think a lot of these institutions are just getting creative and trying to manage it, use the time as best they can. In other words, try to turn it into a positive in any way they can. Yeah.
I got a couple of questions for the Knicks. I want to start with Nick G. Phil mentioned the changes in the rules for field hockey, and I forgot the other question for Nick, but let's start there. Maybe this will come back to me. What's it like in soccer, Nick G? In terms of rule changes and so on, how's the flow of the game been?
I think the more games that teams have played, the better the pace and the flow and the understanding of the rules has gotten. I think at first it was a little difficult, whistles were being blown. I personally didn't know why at some points they were being blown. I think players on the field felt the same way, but as they've played a couple of games and as the refs have got acclimated to the games more and the new rules, I think it's been completely fine. Some of the bigger rule changes are you kick in the ball instead of throwing it in. I was at a game early in the season, and I remember some kid kicked it in the air from out of bounds, and that was an immediate whistle. You're not allowed to do that. And now, I haven't seen that in probably a couple weeks. They keep it on the ground now. So they're getting a better understanding for the rules. It is a little different with no headers. Teams are keeping the ball on the ground more because you can hit it in the air. You gotta, know not to go up and hit it with your head and try and corral it with your chest or your feet or whatever. But in terms of the pace of play, I think it's picked up nicely and games have been pretty smooth overall.
Nick C, I got to ask you, I saw something somewhere, it must have been on social media, about somebody hit the first home run out of the softball field at Gloucester High School. Do you know anything about that? Because
a couple weeks ago, 14-year-old. I think she's a freshman. Cameron Carroll, I believe her name is. Yeah, she hit it out of the GHS softball field. I know that. I confirmed it's true. It was the first over the fence home run at that field next to the canal, it takes a pretty good shot. There's some of those local softball fields are bandboxes. That one is not.
Well, who's playing softball?
It was an AAU team.
Oh, okay.
Guys are hitting it out of the ballpark here with these answers here today. That's for sure. But hey, what's ahead this week? So we talked about last week or this past week that we're wrapping up here. But what about what's up on the schedules for next week?
Wow. Go ahead.
I know. Well, we talked about St. John's Prep. Soccer hasn't allowed a goal. Well, it must be something in the Kroll family because Kaylee Kroll, the coach's daughter, and Beverly, they haven't allowed a goal yet either. And they get Masco next Tuesday. Masco's undefeated as well. And then Masco gets Danvers on Friday. So, 3 unbeaten teams, and very unlikely that all 3 will still be unbeaten. next time our podcast is posted next Saturday. So those are the three big ones on the horizon there in the NEC girls soccer world.
We were talking to Willie about, you know more about it than I do, that great cross-country match on Halloween, the conference.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Marblehead is going to meet Masco. And, it's great because it's 2 weeks out from the big invitational we talked about last week. And, that saw Marblehead's Loden Rodriguez win the race, best runner in the state. And Sebi Gilligan from Masco, I think, finished fourth. So those guys are going to run against each other on Halloween. So that should be that should be a sight to see. You don't often see two runners of that caliber both in the same conference. A lot of times you go to the state meets and the top guys are all from different places. So it's should be a nice nice race. And the State Coaches Association just scheduled another invitational for November after the Frank Kelly had such success this past week. So that's exciting. I can't remember the name of the fellow that it's named after. I feel bad about that, but great to see the State Coaches Association taking the bull by the horns and coming up with a way to have these invitationals. As we mentioned last week, all the reports I got from the various coaches that were there, your Peabodys, your Marbleheads, your Mascos, Jeff Bartlett from Danvers. I mean, everybody said it was really, really well run, really safe, and a great thing for the kids. And, that just makes you smile as an observer.
Which reminds me, I certainly hope that with the mandate coming down the other day that all hockey rinks in the state must be shut down for a couple weeks. No youth or high school age games, practices, drills, anything like that. It's unfortunate between the number of players and the number of cases. I heard from a lot of people when the news came out Thursday night, sources, coaches, things like that. And I did hear that there were maybe some youth hockey coaches and or fans allowed at certain games or whatever that weren't completely following the mask protocol. So I hope that, these indoor rinks don't become super spreaders, and a couple weeks off, tightening up the guidelines, we can get kids back out on the ice and do this safely. This is all what happens now. I've said this many times, is predicated on what we're going to have this winter. In this case, ice hockey for girls and boys at the high school level. So let's hope this 2-week pause can allow everyone to maybe review what's gone on, put stricter protocols in place if necessary, and get everyone back out there safely.
You know what I was thinking, Phil? The safest place in sports now with the virus would be the penalty box. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
I mean, as long as you don't have a teammate in there with you, it could be the safest spot.
Although I did tell you, I think I've mentioned on the podcast before, I was at a game last winter where they invited me to sit in the scorer's box, which I do, maybe a couple times a year I'll do that. But they said, "Oh, come on over, you can sit in here." I said, "Okay." Well, and the two penalty boxes are on either side of the scorer's box. And this happened to be a game where there were a couple dozen penalties and some not nice exchanges between the two teams. And of course, as you know, in hockey, it's not as if these ill feelings, let's call them, end as soon as they skate off the ice into the sin bin. So they carried over, and I'm getting some verbal exchanges over my head back and forth for most of the game. So I don't know how safe an atmosphere that actually is, Bill.
Hey, Nick, you and I have been up in Gloucester where the penalty boxes, they're yelling, and there's some amazing language that we're listening to. And boy, if they could reach each other.
Yeah, I've learned from those exchanges that high school kids' favorite insults have not changed at all in about 20 years. Still the same. Still the same 4-letter words.
Yeah. Maybe not as crude.
No, it's just as crude.
Yeah.
No. I mean, not as crude in the non-salty language. But still,
That's funny. Well, there you go. So I might be wrong. I'll stand corrected. It's probably not the safest spot to be for a lot of reasons, I guess. Now that I'm thinking about it. So, well, gentlemen, our final moments or so. Any other thoughts that you guys like to sound off on, whether it be Patriots, World Series, anything at all? You know what I was thinking. Maybe we should just end on a local topic. I was just thinking here. Masconomet is doing pretty well coming into the Northeastern Conference. They're having a pretty good fall right here. It looks like to me from what I'm hearing. So they're having no problem, as we wouldn't really have thought they would have any problem with these fall sports for sure in the Northeastern Conference.
No, they're having great success all the way across the board, Bill. I touched upon the field hockey team is doing really well. I know the cross country is doing well. Girls soccer, Willie, you know how strong they are, and Nick, they're playing very well for Jared Scarpacci and the boys team.
Golf is undefeated, and it didn't mention that, but they haven't lost. Yeah.
Honestly, the winning percentage is probably up, maybe way up over 80% so far, the games they've played.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thank God for them, because if it wasn't for them, that these people would have just canceled the whole season. They wouldn't even be playing. So
that's right.
That's right. But I will say, I touched on it earlier. Those girls soccer games are going to be really good. I think water seeks its level, and I think that unlike field hockey, maybe boys soccer, I think the competition among the good teams in the league might be up to standing up against Masco. So I'm looking forward to those two games, and we might see rematches in November. We'll see.
Gentlemen, any final thoughts?
I'm rooting for the Rays. I don't know about anybody else. I mean,
I'm all in on the Rays too. I know
some people saying that
either way, but
it would be the worst thing to ever happen to baseball. The model of the Rays winning and how they do it, and the pitching staff and all that. And I'm not disagreeing. It's a little bit convoluted, but I like the underdog. I got no problem with Mookie. I like Mookie. I like Dave Roberts. I think Bellinger's a great player. I'm a big Clayton Kershaw guy, but they're LA. They're the Dodgers. They can spend a gajillion dollars. Tampa Bay is doing it with guile and with tape and glue and everything else. So hey, what the hell? Root for them.
And the Rays would be watching this saying, "Hey, thanks, Phil. Thanks for picking us, or thanks for joining our side." I'm sure they are. Yeah.
I think it's going to be a long series, 6-7 games.
If Mookie was half the, I don't have no problem with Mookie either, but it's Twitter. It's like every time he does something, everybody has to cry about what a great, the greatest player in history, and how could they let him go and all this? I mean, he's okay. Top 5, top 10. I mean, I could come up with a lot of good baseball players. So, but the thing is, I don't want Tampa to win because I don't want Chaim Bloom to get all this credit and then turn the Red Sox into this team. But the other angle of that is Tom Brady shows up down in Tampa. They win the Stanley Cup. They win the World Series. I mean, is this guy a witch or what?
Food for thought.
TB12, a little more powerful than we thought, I guess. All right, gentlemen.
The sports gods are making up for the fact that Tampa lost at WrestleMania this past spring to the coronavirus.
I knew there was something to it.
Yeah, it all evens out. All right, gentlemen, thank you. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.
Thank you, Bill.